The sound of a door slamming echoed through the hospital corridor as Sarah Mitchell, a 45-year-old nurse with 18 years of service, was escorted out of Riverside Memorial Hospital. 3 patients had reported missing medications, and somehow all evidence pointed to Sarah. The hospital administration, led by CEO Richard Wells, had made their decision. The single mother of 2 drove home in tears, the weight of her unjust dismissal pressing down on her chest like a boulder. She had dedicated her life to helping others, often sacrificing time with her own children to care for strangers in need. Now, with a mark on her record, no hospital would hire her. The thought of her children, Emily and Michael, struggling because of her tarnished reputation, was unbearable. The weeks that followed were filled with unanswered job applications and dwindling savings. Sarah found herself in a desperate situation, forced to pull her daughter Emily out of college and watch her son Michael take on extra shifts at the grocery store. In their small community, rumors spread like wildfire, and the story of the drug-stealing nurse became the talk of the town, a narrative that painted her as a villain in a life she had always lived with integrity. 3 months later, Sarah sat staring at yet another rejection email, her heart heavy with disappointment. The medical board was reviewing her case, but without Richard Wells's support, she felt hopeless about clearing her name. The isolation was suffocating, and the shame of being accused of something so heinous weighed heavily on her spirit. That autumn evening, Sarah drove to her sister's house across Philadelphia, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. As she navigated through the streets, she was lost in a fog of despair, nearly missing the headlights, veering wildly into oncoming traffic. A luxury car swerved across the center line and crashed into a telephone pole. Instinct kicked in, and without thinking, Sarah rushed to the wreckage. The driver was slumped over the wheel, blood streaming from his forehead. As Sarah checked for a pulse, the just came into view, Richard Wells himself. The man who had destroyed her life was now unconscious and needed her help. For a moment, she hesitated, anger boiling within her. This man had taken everything from her, yet her oath as a nurse prevailed. She stabilized his neck, checked his airways, and called 911, her training overriding her personal vendetta. Waiting for the ambulance, she noticed an empty pill bottle on the passenger seat and recognized the signs of an overdose. It was a bitter twist of fate that she was now in a position to save the very man who had cast her aside. When the paramedics arrived, she provided them with the information they needed and rode along in the ambulance, a sense of duty still guiding her. It wasn't until they reached Riverside Memorial that the full weight of the situation hit her. She was bringing the CEO who had fired her back to the very hospital where her reputation had been destroyed. Emergency staff recognized her immediately. Some looked away uncomfortably, while others seemed surprised to see her helping the man who wronged her. Dr. Patel, an emergency physician who had always respected Sarah, nodded appreciatively as she explained the circumstances surrounding the pill bottle. As the trauma team took over, Sarah waited in the lobby, her clothes stained with Richard's blood. Hours passed, each tick of the clock amplifying her anxiety. Finally, a doctor approached her, informing her that Mr. Wells was stable, but it had been close. The dangerous mix of medications in his system could have been fatal without her quick assessment. Relief washed over her but it was tinged with the bitterness of her own situation. As she prepared to leave, Sarah's eyes caught sight of Richard's briefcase among his retrieved belongings. It had sprung open, revealing a hospital document with her name on it. Checking that no one was watching, she slid the paper out, her heart racing. The memo, dated 2 days before her termination, detailed a medication error by Dr. James Crawford, Richard's son-in-law, which had caused serious patient complications. It recommended investigation and reporting to the medical board. In Richard's handwriting were instructions to find another explanation, suggesting they used reports of missing medications to implicate Sarah instead. Sarah's hands shook as the truth emerged. She had been scapegoated to protect the CEO's family member. All her suffering, the shame, financial struggles, her children's sacrifices stemmed from this corrupt cover-up. The revelation ignited a fire within her, a determination to fight back against the injustice she had endured. A nurse approached, and Sarah quickly hid the document. Mr. Wells was awake and asking about the person who saved him. Sarah faced a decision: confront Richard directly or approach strategically to clear her name without losing the moral high ground. She chose the strategic path, knowing that she needed to be careful. Following the nurse to Richard's room, Sarah found him lying in a hospital bed, connected to monitors. His eyes widened in recognition as she entered. She explained how she had found him at the accident scene and recognized the overdose symptoms. Richard thanked her awkwardly, his expression a mix of gratitude and discomfort. As she prepared to leave, Sarah mentioned the memo about Dr. Crawford's medication error from his briefcase. The color drained from Richard's face. She explained that she now understood why she had been targeted. A scapegoat to protect his son-in-law. His heart monitor beeped faster, a sign of his rising anxiety. In a moment of desperation, Richard weakly offered money for silence, but Sarah declined. "I want my reputation restored and the truth known," she stated firmly, her resolve unwavering. She would not be silenced or bought off. The next morning, Sarah contacted a journalist from the Philadelphia Tribune who specialized in medical ethics. Without naming names, she shared her story and the evidence she had uncovered. The journalist promised to investigate, and Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. 2 weeks later, the hospital board received an anonymous package containing the internal memo and details about the cover-up. The board launched an investigation, and Dr. Crawford was placed on leave. Richard faced his own investigation when police discovered that his medications had been illegally obtained through prescriptions written by his son-in-law. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah found temporary work at a nursing home, trying to rebuild her life one step at a time. Then, she received a formal letter from Riverside Memorial. With trembling hands, she opened it to find an official apology, acknowledgement of wrongful termination, and an offer of reinstatement with full back pay. Dr. Crawford had admitted to the medication error and falsifying evidence. Richard had been forced to resign, and the board cleared Sarah's name and restored her standing with the medical board. The Philadelphia Tribune published a front-page article exposing the scandal, with Sarah portrayed as the wrongfully accused nurse who saved her accuser's life. The story gained national attention, and for the first time in months, Sarah felt a sense of vindication. When Sarah returned to Riverside Memorial, her colleagues greeted her with respect and admiration. Dr. Patel, now interim chief of medicine, asked her to help implement new protocols to prevent similar ethical breaches in the future. Sarah advocated for better whistleblower protection, and the hospital established a new ethics committee with her as a key member. 6 months later, Emily received a full scholarship established for children of healthcare workers who demonstrated exceptional ethics, a gesture that felt like a long overdue recognition of Sarah's integrity. 1 year after the accident, Sarah encountered Richard in the parking lot. He had come to make peace before leaving town, a shadow of the man he once was. Richard admitted his wrongdoing, explaining that fear of scandal and protecting his daughter's marriage had clouded his judgment. He acknowledged the integrity Sarah had shown, even towards someone who had harmed her, a bittersweet moment of closure. As Richard drove away, Sarah felt a sense of justice settling into place. Her principles had not only restored her life, but transformed an entire hospital system. Her case became part of the ethics curriculum at nursing schools, a testament to the importance of integrity in the medical profession. She occasionally gave talks about maintaining one's moral compass, even in the darkest moments, sharing her journey to inspire others. Emily graduated and joined her mother at Riverside, where Sarah had been promoted to Director of Nursing Ethics. Together, they created a culture where truth was valued above convenience, a legacy of resilience and integrity that would guide future generations of healthcare professionals. On the 5th anniversary of that fateful night, Sarah received a small package containing a framed quote: "The truth may be delayed, but it cannot be denied." The unsigned note reminded her that even those who bury the truth eventually learn that it surfaces. Sarah's story was a powerful reminder that justice eventually arrives, and our choices in our weakest moments define who we truly are. She had fought for her name, her family, and her profession, and in doing so, she had forged a path of integrity that would resonate far beyond her own life. Subscribe to the Golden Love Stories channel for more heartfelt tales of redemption, justice, and human resilience.